Does anyone have a question? People often ask me, what is the goal of Kundalini yoga, practicing meditation in this kind of depth? And a lot of things come to mind, but probably the most important element of it is truly transforming ourselves and learning how to live, with an inner peace and with quiet and the development of the highest levels of our own humanity. I mean, I think if there is any goal in what we do, it's that. And what does it mean, the highest levels of one's humanity? I mean, we're born here to be happy people. We're born here to be full of love. I mean, infants, the sweetness that comes out of them is directly related to how closely they're connected to spirit. They've just emerged from, as Bach would say, the place where the music comes from. So we're born here to live that way. And of course, people lose it very quickly. They're so conditioned by, life's negative and positive and conflicting elements that whole sense of sweetness and that whole innocence, it kind of disappears. And we need to regain it. It's like paradise lost and paradise regained. And I think if there's any end goal in the practice of Kundalini yoga, this meditation, it's just developing the highest levels of our humanity. And as I say all the time, when that is developed, when that is really developed, spiritual enlightenment is a snap. I mean, it's like an automatic bridge to an enlightened state of being when a human being learns how to develop heart chakra, quiet mind, love, compassion, kindness for other people, learns how to sustain a kind of innocence that keeps them connected to spirit. And I think that this is something we all have to remember. Why are we doing this? What are we working to develop in ourselves? And there are rewards. I mean, and what are they? The rewards you got to learn to surrender also. But at least it brings a certain degree of happiness in life, a certain joy and opening of the heart, the ability to look out at the world and recognize, the great treasure that is life and how to use it to build the kind of system I'm talking about inside themselves. I mean, in the earliest period of our lives, we're taught that we have to get rewards, and the rewards generally are money, the house, the car, the clothing, the shoes, everything that's transient. Everything that comes and goes, has a moment and then vanishes. It's rarely ever connection with spirit, that which is infinite in the universe, that which the soul in a human being longs to merge with. And we spend so much time interfering. We play defense against the soul attaining what it's born here to learn how to attain. I mean, I never thought about it, but we are the only interference between the soul and spiritual enlightenment. And all of our life should be about the surrendering of transiency, not enjoying Maya and illusion or whatever life presents us, enjoying it, but not be attached to it, recognizing it is just another step in the university of life that is teaching us how to get closer to God, how to build a spiritual life. how to connect with energy, the source of all creative energy in the universe. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? I know I talk about this a lot, but it's really worth talking about. I mean, I don't want to get involved in depression and this and that and slumming around in one's own creative nonsense. And, I don't want to, not interested in relationships and why we have them and how they have them. And we have them. We all need to be loved. I mean, there's nothing more wonderful than waking up in the morning next to somebody that you really love. We need these things. You understand? And at the same time, we often, through judgment and insecurity and tension, transform these wonderful treasures that life provides us into nonsense. So God is love is not limited to specific things we like and dislike. It's the whole world that's there, one's teacher, this remarkable university that we have been born into, that's here to teach us what we need to learn in this lifetime to truly become one with higher energy in the universe. This remarkable universe called life. Does anyone have a question?
Stuart, it's Tom. I have a question.
Yes, Tom.
Um, when it feels like a cycle is culminating, what are the ways to surrender the cycle?
Just let go. I mean, when something is finished, what are you holding on to? You're holding on to something that really has died. It's over with. It's familiar, and we have lived with. And
And
part of learning to surrender is letting go of things that no longer nurture us.
and if it's a spiritual cycle, the same thing?
A spiritual cycle, look, one leads to another, and a spiritual cycle will never stop nourishing you. Habit will stop nourishing you. Even habit in ways that people practice, spiritual work will stop nourishing. Even this meditation will stop nourishing you the moment you begin to take it for granted. That moment, it'll stop nourishing you. Any religion you get involved with, the moment you start taking it for granted, it'll stop nourishing you. Any human being that you get involved with, the moment you stop taking them for granted, that situation will stop nourishing. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because one has to learn to finish cycles. At the same time, one has to have the capacity and the development inside to really let go, and not manufacture excuses for yourself, for why you've turned something that is miraculous into a habit. So I don't know the answer to your question, Tom, other than I learned years ago. Look, I was talking to someone about this yesterday, actually. When Rudy asked me to go to college, he said, I want you to get a degree because I want to send you to Big Indian where you'll teach, and you have to have a way to support yourself. And I remember I went to college. I started going to college. I went back to Hunter College. I couldn't deal with it. So I just quit. And then I applied to the new school. And it sounded like their program was more in line with what I could do at a university. And I started going there. And the first 6 months I was arguing and I knew better than all the teachers and blah, 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 da, 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 da. And it became really difficult. It became difficult to go there and sit through the classes. And one day I woke up to why I was there. I wasn't there. I could have everything they were teaching me, I could have learned at home. Just get the books and read them. I was there to learn to finish cycles. I was there to learn how to bring a conclusion to areas of my life that needed to be concluded. And the moment I learned that, my whole rapport at this university changed. I was no longer going there to find something that I couldn't find there, but I could find how to, finish this. It took me 10 years to finally graduate from college. And when I began to discover that, everything got clear. My friendships with the teachers grew. My ability to listen to them grew. I stopped judging other people. And I remember when I finally wrote this thesis that they asked me to write, that's how you graduate. It was like a doctoral thesis you had to write. And I wrote it on the Om sound. And I'll never forget, I had 3 teachers interviewing me about the Om sound, and none of them knew a thing about it. They just had read my essay. And they asked me 3 questions. I answered them. And then we got into a 3-hour discussion about my life and what I'm interested in and why I wrote this essay and how wonderful it is that you're able to take something so esoteric and make it practical. It was really true. And at the end of that, they told me, if whatever university you want to go to for a master's degree, we will write you, we'll write a paper for you saying that, yes, this person should attend that university. It was Harvard, Columbia, it was any university. I knew I was finished with the university. I knew I was finished. And I'll never forget when I went to Rudy. Rudy always used to do things tongue in cheek with me. I said to him, Rudy, I got my degree. Because he told me something amazing is going to happen to you when you get your degree. So he said, go get a master's degree. Never forget. I said to Rudy, in what? In what, Rudy? I had no idea what. Theology? I had no idea what. Anyway, I remember driving back from Big Indian with him. And I had really worked hard that weekend. I mean, that week, that month, that summer. And I was growing profoundly in myself. It was extraordinary what was happening. And I said to him, Rudy, do I really need to get a master's degree? And he looked at me with a smile on his face. He says, no, you've outgrown that. And then, I think it was like a month later, he sent me to Denton, Texas for 3 weeks. I spent 9 years there. But what an education. It was remarkable. It was everything I needed at that point in my life to grow. And when I finally evolved to the point where I knew I can do nothing more there, it's finished, I left. I went back to New York. Because I knew if I could do it in New York, you can do it anywhere. I mean, if you can have a spiritual life in New York, you can have a spiritual life anywhere. And I knew that kind of intensity I needed for the next levels of my growth. Cycle came to an end. There was nothing more. What else could I do? I remember seeing Bob Baker on that crane, putting that thing on top of the stupor, on top of the. And I said, what else can I, that's it. It's the final, parenthesis. What else am I going to do here? Build a candy factory and build a this and that. And I just told everybody I'm leaving. I needed to go to the next level of my life. The next level of my life opened in New York City. And I was even told this by some really great teacher. If you move back to New York, your teachings will be known all over the world. That's what he told me. And I think 6 months later, I moved back. So cycles come to an end, and there's always a door that opens. And the door, if you're growing spiritually, it takes you to a higher level in your life. You're not just rejecting something and walking away from something. You go to a whole new level in your life. It was the same way with my writing. I mean, when Rudy told me to burn my manuscript, you talk about having to surrender something. Started a puja fire. It was the best thing I ever did in terms of writing. Best. It freed me of that poetry thing I was involved in. And I've written, I don't know, a dozen books, and every one of them were much better than what I was ever doing before I burned the manuscript. So it's really you and what you want in your life. And if you're willing to continue to grow, or if you're just sitting around and pretending you're having a spiritual life. To me, that's what finishing a cycle is all about. And the moment we leave the world, the cycle is finished. What do we take with us? What has happened to the soul in the 50, 70, 80 years, 20 years that a person spends here? How close have they gotten to spiritual enlightenment? Or are they still wondering about, the next pair of shoes they're going to buy, the clothing, the this, the that, color of the car, talking about other people. And you can enjoy life. I tell you frankly, I watched all these Knick games it was fantastic, those games. I never saw basketball games like that. And I was a big basketball freak when I was younger. I used to be a pretty good basketball player. Helen, Chris, you saw me play.
Yes.
I was a pretty good basketball player.
Sure.
I'm watching these guys come from an impossible game to win the game. I said, man, that takes guts. That takes guts to overcome the impossible, to do the impossible in life. Does anyone else have a question they would like?
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome, Tom. I hope that helps a bit. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions. So remember, in August, there's a retreat. I think there's 13 people that have signed up. There's room for maybe 5 more, I think. If you want to come and celebrate my birthday and do a deep weekend of spiritual practice, you're welcome. And then in October, I haven't set the dates yet, but I think I'm pretty certain that I want to go. I need a trip out of the country. I really do. And I think I'd like to go and maybe do something in Belgium and then go have a vacation somewhere in the south of Europe. Okay, if there are no more questions, then God bless you all. Thank you. It's a miracle to sit here and do this with all of you, and just to even open and allow myself to touch on the kind of depth that these talks give is like amazing. I listen to them. I learn from them. So bless you all and thank you. There'll be meditation on Tuesday There'll also be a class tonight with Pat Fay and another one tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Stuart. Thank you.